You counted every calorie, tried every diet, spent hours in the gym, and still something's missing. You want more than just weight loss. You want your energy back. You want your confidence restored. You want a way of living that doesn't feel like punishment. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism, where we cut through the noise, ditch the fads, and give you a real plan to become the healthiest, strongest version of you. Hosted by our team of expert coaches with proven strategies, science-based tips, and real-life encouragement, not just to help you lose fat, but actually create that lifestyle that you love. You've tried everything. Now, let's try what actually works. This is your turning point. Let's go. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism. And we have such a special guest here with us today. We are so excited. One of our clients that has just been such an amazing journey with us. So we thought we would bring her on to share. This is Melanie. And we are also here, obviously, with Calvin and David. So we wanted to kind of ask a few questions and get started, I think, with Mel, just tell us a little.
I just want to say for part of that intro, that doesn't even do her justice. I got to say,
I was going to get into it.
I know, but I'm excited about this one. So not only does she have a crazy transformation, but definitely one of those check-ins that like I get excited to do every single week.
Because she's freaking hilarious.
Because yeah, she's just a big rainbow of just bubbles and laughter and all kinds of stuff. So
and she has the best food porn.
True.
So let's get into it.
Yeah, awesome. So do me a favor. I want you to kind of think back to when you reached out, right? So always with people, I feel like when they are thinking about getting started, they always have that point, that turning point, that something happens that makes them reach out and makes them decide to start shifting and start doing the things to move them in the direction that they've always kind of wanted to go and maybe hesitated. So I just want to know what that point was for you and where you started and what that kind of looked like.
Well, so I think maybe my start was atypical in that when I, initially reached out, I had lost about 80 pounds on my own following just a real low point health wise, weight wise. I had left a toxic job and was really, I was at my heaviest, 220 pounds, and, was all of a sudden all these health issues that, you think you attribute to elderly people or morbidly obese people were suddenly becoming, more of a reality. And, I knew I had to lose weight. And I think I maybe like a lot of people thought, if I can lose X amount of weight and get to a healthy weight, that's it. I'll have done it. I'll be happy. I'll be healthy. I'll look great. I'll feel great. It's going to be great. And I did that and I lost 80 pounds and got to, where my doctor would say, technically based on this infographic, you are now a healthy person. You've done it. And I didn't like anything. I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like how I felt. It was just sort of a smaller version of maybe where I was before, with no real sense of success or satisfaction. And I think at that point, I was like, well, I knew a couple people who had, had, really impressive, transformations, with you guys. And
yeah, one of them might be present on the call.
Maybe, but it's not about him. And that's really what we need to keep in mind. But it's not.
Well, we'll see.
Who? Yeah. But I think too, and I forget how you said it initially, but I don't even know at that point that I had made a choice or even acknowledged, that necessarily that same success is possible for me. I think at that point it was just sort of this feeling of like, well, I mean, we want the best of everything else, right? We want to like send our kids like to the best school, we want like the best phone or the best mechanic or whatever. But for some reason, like we're like, I'll be in charge of getting myself to my optimal health. Why would I know how to do that? So I think, well, I don't know that I acknowledged, an end result. I definitely was intrigued by, well, what would happen if I kind of left it up to people?
Yeah, let's fuck around and find out.
Yeah, right? Like, what's the worst that could happen, right? I had already sort of reached my personal goal and wasn't psyched. So, yeah, I was certainly willing to experiment on my health negatively, right? Like, I'll eat 8 times that and, drink that and whatever. And, so why not experiment in a healthy way? So, and then it was, I think initially it really was about trying to reach, I don't know what I thought would be maybe healthy for real. And then
Yeah.
I think it just became like, oh, I'm not really sure if I want to not do this ever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it became something entirely different. But I think initially it was just, what's the healthiest I could get if I let somebody else drive for a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, and as that, yeah, and then you just took off from there. I just remember when you came in, I think you were weighing about 144 pounds at that time, and so your calories weren't horrible compared to what we're used to seeing. I think you were somewhere in the like 1,500 calorie range. So I'm like, okay, well, I think she can handle more calories. Now you still had a little bit of weight on you at that time, and it's one of those things where when we do something like this, we start to reverse with somebody, you kind of envision what you want them to look like, but you never really know. You're like, okay, is this person going to be adherent? What can we expect? This and that. But I always have a bit of a vision. And I'll be honest, like when I have my vision, I set the bar high for these people. Like I'm looking at what's the best I can do with this person. Like I hear what they're saying they want. I'm going to try to shoot above that. And with you, I had this vision and here was my goal for you, and you just went whoop,
Yeah.
just kept going, and it was yeah. So 144 when you started, and then so I
Yeah. That
remember we
reverse
did a
was
bit of a
crazy.
reset, just cleaned up the system a little bit, and started reversing, starting at like 1,300, and by the time we got to 2,000 calories, you went from 144 pounds down to 118 pounds. But this was very different from what you see a lot of times, kind of like what Melanie was talking about when she lost the weight. She was a smaller version of herself, which is very common to hear that from people that have big weight drops because you do lose so much muscle in the process and you are kind of depleted by the time you get there. Well, her body just took shape like I've never seen before, and just even to the 2000 point. And the fact that she lost all that body fat with the amount of muscle that she actually gained was a lot more body fat than what shows on that scale. And that was just to the 2000 point. And we kept pushing. We got her up to 2,500 calories and she just kept looking better and better and just abs shredded. She looks like, and still looks like she's like a month out from competing, and it never changed. And so very just best case scenario kind of thing. And so that's what just made it just super exciting through the whole process. And then and I don't know, I was curious, like, how much were you lifting weights prior to this? Like, when did you learn to really start loving to lift?
Totally by accident when my now 22-year-old was a baby and I couldn't leave the house. I was stuck at home. And again, I sort of found myself just overweight and unhappy. And that's, I think, when I got really good at just losing weight by the numbers, and just really got in the habit of like, if I want it was just all math at that point. Sucked all the emotion and feeling right out of it and made it something
Yeah.
else. But it meant that I needed to work out. The only place that had childcare was the Y. So I went there and was there all the time and just sort of messing around in the gym. I knew I loved lifting weights. I loved it. I loved it. And I would have stuck with it. I think there was just this turning point where I kind of left that environment and ended up in a corporate scenario like a lot of new parents do and trying to do that. And it just meant like that whole thing was in the past. And so I think when I sort of found myself again, like presented with that, I was like, oh my God, I shouldn't have left in the first place.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah,
And I think
but it
it's that
wasn't
in,
something yeah.
yeah. And I think, sorry to interrupt you, but I was
No.
just want to, before I lost my thought, it's that part. There's sometimes when you start training, and I have clients that come to me that weren't into training, never have started. So it's like what that piece is that you said that, oh, I shouldn't have left that. Like, what was that feeling, that thing about training that really brings you? Like for me, for instance, when all my world is a chaos, that is my one place that I feel strong because
Yes.
everywhere else that you feel
Yes.
that you can't do it, for me, that's what I try to convey to people is you might not like work. Like I hated working out, but once you start, it's like, oh, it's the one place I could see progress. It's the one place that I can feel like a little bit in control. It's the one place that I feel strong. And no matter what is coming towards me, like I can do it. So, what was it for you with working out that, really got you to that feeling?
I think I if there's one thing that I would really, really want people to hear me say is that I cannot stress enough how not an athlete I am. Some people in this chat may be familiar with the younger version of me. In no way was I involved in team sports. I cannot tell you how many years I pretended to have asthma just to get out of running the mile. Like I was a pro at avoiding all sports, all exercise. I got winded walking to the mailbox. I was not athletic at all. I have no interest in sports. Can't stress that enough. And I still really don't, but I do absolutely, absolutely love. There is no greater metaphor for absolutely every single thing you are dealing with in life than lifting. There is no better metaphor. You cannot, if you want it to be you versus you, then it's you versus you. If you want it to be you versus whatever that specific problem is, then that's what you're working with. It's whatever you want it to be. It's completely malleable and it doesn't require, a bunch of shit. I
Yeah.
don't know if we can
Yeah.
curse, right?
Yeah.
There's not a huge upfront, investment. It's literally you. And if you don't have anything, then that's fine too. It's body weight. If you don't have, more than $20, it's one plate. It's this. It's totally doable. It's totally accessible to everybody. And it's the greatest feeling in the world too, because at least for me, the more, yes, the mental health benefit. Yeah. Yes. The quieting the noise, but when as you're going along and doing this, you're also simultaneously like building this connection to your body that just didn't exist before. And especially if you were overweight like me or not athletic like me, or, I lived, almost 40 years of my life separate from my body. So it's an amazing feeling to feel connected to that and to feel like it really is this vessel that's for you to use to sort of reach your next, level with whatever that is, as opposed to this thing you carry around that you're like, sorry for all this, everyone, and
Yeah.
just kind of going through life,
Yeah.
taking up space. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a game changer in that sense. But I mean that I think we've all experienced probably something similar. Like once I achieved this small difficult task, you get to the other side of it and you're like, well, wow, now that I did that, the next thing isn't so hard. And it's that over and over again forever, which is like the greatest.
Yeah.
That's the
Absolutely.
outlet. It's the therapy and it's the problem solving that comes from it, all those things. And it's interesting that you bring that up about not being athletic, growing up and here you are looking like basically like a world-class athlete, that's the irony with it. And that's pretty common with bodybuilding in a lot of cases because I think that we just view it differently than other people view it when they look at us. They just assume that we're just athletic and all these things or whatever, so but it's not always the case. We all kind of have our reasons for doing it, whether it's aesthetic, health, or whatever. But I'm just curious, how many guys have like seen you like in the grocery store line or something and walked up and saw your arms and you're like, look at those arms. Why I wouldn't mess with you?
I don't know about that. I will say, my demographic is the elderly men. They're very proud of me. They want me to know it.
Well, you are at the
I'm like,
YMCA, right? So,
Yeah.
you know,
It's a
yeah,
thing.
I'm the son they've never had. They just can't
Yeah.
wait. They just can't wait to tell me.
Shouldn't that be the OMCA?
Right.
Mm, you're welcome. That fell
And
flat.
David, on that topic, I'm going to think of David because
Speaking of
just so
old
you
men,
guys know, like that these two and how they know each other. So, David, I want you to kind of share a little bit
sure.
and just about your
I
view
don't
of
want to
like,
share.
don't share all of
Or
that. I
don't,
mean, or
or
don't,
don't share anything at all. Yeah, that's also fine.
but also about like her transformation and where you kind of, because you've had your own transformation with
Yeah.
us And I just think it would be an interesting little segue here to kind of show what you have experienced and also in comparison with Mel has experienced from what you have seen.
So Melanie is my wife's cousin, and I have known her since you were 11, since she was writing on the walls of her room. I remember that
It was
very
very
well.
misunderstood.
Huh? She was. She was misunderstood.
Mel was a problem child. No, all
No.
the funny people
No,
were problem childs, I think.
no, she was a writer. She was a poet at age 11 on her walls, the entire walls of her room. I remember it very well. So I've seen her grow up, and I've seen her transformation, not only physically, but also watching her go through her teenage years and the angst. There was no angst. It was a lot of angst, mostly angst. But also see her grow up and see her turn into the person that you see before you. And for me to see somebody from a long-term perspective change into the person they're meant to be, it's been so wonderful to see. No crying. But I know. It's truly been a 180 for Melanie, both from a personal perspective in her growth, but also from her physical transformation. I think she saw my transformation and my wife's transformation and said, I need some of that. Maybe not in those words, but she reached out to me. I guess it was probably a few years ago that you reached out to me and said, who are you working with? And I said, well, you're not going to work with me because you're a cousin. I said, but you need to reach out to Brooke and to Calvin. And I think that was just a little marriage made in heaven right there.
What was so interesting though is what David doesn't know is I always thought like when I would imagine as a non-athlete what athletic people were or how they lived or just what they looked like in life, as they did their laundry and things. I don't know. I would have always described you as that person. You were somebody. You did a lot of like 5Ks and sort of runs, and that you were doing CrossFit, I know, for a while. And I think, so I always associated you with athleticism, and fitness and all that. And like, that's wow, right? Like that was the after. Year before was like my after. And I'm like, could you imagine? Wow. So when you were, you were like, so when you're working with Calvin and Brooke, I'm like, huh. All right. So like, if you're just going to keep like raising the bar, and I mean, I guess the good news is like, wow, for you. The bad news is like, well, shit, now we know that's possible. So great. Thank you. But then, it definitely like, it piqued my interest enough to be like, well, I can't imagine. And you were a real person, right? So you weren't this like, you're not this paid sort of whatever, right? You're this real
It wasn't a
guy
paid
that like,
advertisement.
I just saw you at like Thanksgiving,
Yep.
so I know you're real. So if this is something that's accessible to a real person, and if I'm a real person, then, mathematically that would just equal the possibility of me maybe doing that too. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't
Absolutely.
math.
Well, you definitely gave
No.
him a
And
run for
that's
the
why I'm
money.
doing a lot of question marks.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because David is all these athletic things. Before David started with me, I just knew him as a guy that was in the background in his wife's progress pictures. That
Yep.
was always in his underwear, making
Yep.
something in the kitchen. That's how I knew him. And so and considering where he came from, he's come a long way.
Wasn't my
Yeah.
underwear.
It's nice to see you in the front of photos.
I know.
Yeah.
No more backgrounds. No more backgrounds.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm curious now that you kind of been on both sides where you're at like I guess like 225 and I think you're 5'3" if I'm right. It's 5'3" or 5'4". So, that would be considered heavier, for that height to where you are now, which is kind of one extreme to the other. I'm curious, like, do people act differently? Have you noticed that they say things different? They look at you different. They just act different. Like, in which way?
I think it's weird because, and I think this is probably true for, just about everybody I've ever spoken to who is really into bodybuilding or changing their body or their physique. Nobody is like what everybody else is seeing isn't, what I'm seeing or what you're seeing. We have a completely different,
Oh, I have body
mental image.
dysmorphia. All
Yeah,
of us.
of course, right. So I think, I I think the weirdest adjustment, I think, is um, people will say things. Well, first there's an assumption that I've just, they'll be like, well, you wouldn't know. Oh, I mean, I work at a restaurant, right? So,
Mm.
nobody is more passionate about burgers than I am. No one. If that was a religion, I would pick it. Uh, but so me getting really excited about food and talking to people, I get a lot of like, look at you, look at her trying to talk about food. Well, you wouldn't know, and like you're this big, which hurts on a completely different level. I'm like, are you saying I couldn't beat up your husband? Like, what are you saying? Like, just say that to my face. Like, just say it. But I think just to be treated like somebody who was maybe always just sort of like that, or that it didn't require effort. And, not all the time. I definitely feel better, but, for the most part, I still walk around with the same thoughts like, well, as a big boned girl in this world, you gotta, just like whatever sort of weird stuff you say to yourself as a matronly little sack of potatoes, just making her way,
Yeah.
It's weird because then, when people react a different way, you're like, what are you talking about? I am a morbidly obese, disgusting, person. And they're like, oh, okay.
Bless your
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah, I
That's
don't know.
true with everyone that has had a big weight drop like that, that they seem to have that feeling that like it's still there, like the weight's still there. Like we have another guy that we work with that has dropped over 200 pounds, and he still feels, that he's like doesn't want to do progress pictures, this and that, because he still feels that way. I think it's very normal for that, So, but for how is it like when you go to buy clothes? Like, do you automatically go to the things that are gonna look good on you now, or do you kind of have a habit of going back to the old, the old stuff?
First of all, I'm so flattered that you would describe me as somebody who buys clothes. I I just, if anything, I order like packs of like, I somehow have like the two jobs that require me to always be in yoga pants. So
Perfect.
nailed it,
job.
done. Tank tops, they come in like a variety of colors. They're
Correct.
done.
Absolutely.
And then you just change them out forever. And then I don't know, it's going to get a little bit more challenging, I bet, as like seasons go on. But
Yes, for sure.
I don't know. I'm very minimalist when it comes to
I
that
see that.
anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. If anything, I would say it feels good to wear less clothes. I didn't own a pair of shorts maybe until a year ago. And if I did,
Really?
it was by accident. I don't, it was a gift.
Yeah.
It was a
You
hand
don't
me
wear
down,
shorts?
maybe. I don't
You're a
know.
pants
Gift.
person?
I would wear pants to bed, like just
So your legs are
jeans.
probably wider than
Yeah,
mine.
maybe.
But you do got a great sock collection, I have to say.
I
That
mean,
might be
it's
what I have to
dwindling.
post
It's
on this
dwindling for
podcast.
sure. Yeah.
But those legs, like much longer, like you're not going to be able to wear anything but yoga pants because your quads are like insane now.
They're beastly. Yeah.
I mean, but isn't that the dream where you're like, well, I used to be able to shop at regular stores, but
Right.
then I had to hire a special little tailor.
Like the
I don't
stretchy
know.
jeans, the
Or
There's
stretchy
some
jeans for our quads.
jeggings.
That's where
Yes.
girls went now.
Yes.
No girl. I never
I
hear
don't
the
know.
skinny thing anymore. They
Yeah.
I
just
don't
want
know. All I
muscle.
know is whatever I pick is wrong and it's frowned upon. I'm
That's
past
right.
whatever that is.
And what do you feel is like something that this change and this change in your body, change in your mindset, change in your connection, like what is something, maybe an opportunity that has been opened up for you, or something that you were not able to do in the past that now doing this and being consistent with, because it is another reason you have been super successful is that you are really consistent with your food. You are really consistent with your training. You are really consistent with your mindset and doing all of the things. And that is the reason that you've had such an incredible outcome, obviously. But what is it that you feel that you have now and access to in whatever area that maybe you didn't feel you could achieve before, or didn't feel that you would be successful at before, or something even with your mindset of how things are different now than they were when you started?
I have access to all the things. I mean, I don't know that it's limited to anything at this point. I think, David, you ruin everything. What?
Finish, and I want to give you my perspective on what I see.
Before you didn't even know what I was going to say. Maybe I was going to say the exact same thing.
Let's see.
Do you want to say it in unison so we can prove it?
Let it roll.
1, 2, 3, go.
Confidence.
Oh, okay. Well, for sure. But I think in general, I think it's, and I say it, but I think it's so much weightier for me. Oh, no pun intended. But I think it's bigger for me that just being connected at all to my body has been huge. I think initially I would have said the payoff is it allows me to do physical things that I couldn't do before, right? Like I can get up and have energy first thing. I can go get the mail. I can take the dog for a walk. I have a very physical job. I'm on my feet all day, and I love it. Like that's not so when I was buying my special orthopedic shoes off Amazon because I was 220 pounds and it hurt to just walk across the room. I didn't anticipate being able to do all these things. So that would be like the little answer. But the big one is when you feel like you can do that, you literally are like, well, I could literally do anything at this point because that was the hardest thing. So everything else pales in comparison. And I do think, the confidence is a huge bonus, but I don't even know. I think too, as, somebody who definitely yo-yo dieted for years, as somebody who had a lot of maladaptive behaviors in terms of how I maintained weight at times or lost weight. I was all over the place and I really did a lot of damage. To my metabolism and my body and my mental health because of it. And I think having the discipline and that consistency, it quieted a lot of the noise for me. It gave me sort of this reliable, sort of safe plan to fall back on that was adjustable, right? Like I didn't have to worry that like if I fall back here, but now this is a new month and this month I am hungry all the time. And like I don't have to worry that like it's not going to be responsive to me. So if I always know that safety net is there, then that opens up like 23 extra hours in the day, where I don't have to,
Approximately.
but I don't have to think about that.
Right.
That consumed everything, just the
Yeah.
guilt associated with this or shame, and all that. So when you take all that away, you're like, well, I guess I could finish that book or, listen to this podcast or I don't know, write something or whatever it is, right? So then you get your hobbies back. You're spending time with people again. And I would argue that being consistent and being disciplined in that way, all I ever wanted was to eat an obscene amount of burgers and tots and to have that and to not feel bad about it and to have it work in my favor feels like magic. And there's nothing I wouldn't do for that.
Those burger gains. Those burger gains. And you do, I tell you, even if I see a weight spike from the sodium, I swear you look better in your pictures. It blows me away every time. I'm like,
Maybe I
where is this weight? I
manifested
don't see
that.
it.
And
See, I
something
know.
to be said for that, right? Like, I like how you said the safety of knowing that, you don't have to think about it because a lot of people do. They get so obsessed with the scale or they get so obsessed with, is this working? Is this happening? But you were someone that just said, hey, listen, I have complete trust. Here you go. Take the reins. Just tell me what to do. And you followed. And when that happens, it allows your mind to quiet because you're not so worried about it all the time. And I think that just chilled out and you don't have that stress factor. So a lot of people, we talk to them about stress. It's stress with their lives, stress with, their work, their family, like all of the things that those things impact what's going on. And when you're also stressing about, is this working? It's just one more thing. So I like that you kind of took that off the table. So it did allow you to be present with family. It did allow you to be present and enjoy other things. So I think that combination is just where that magic happened. And then when you have a burger, because there's no guilt with it, right? And there's a way to say, okay, I can have some moderation and have some balance here. Now I can enjoy things. I don't feel restricted. And that's where that whole lifestyle kind of comes into play. And it has become now integrated with you that there's no going back to where it was. It's just, this is who I am now. And having that taste of like confidence, and the confidence isn't just like going into the gym. The confidence, I think, is spilling over into a lot of areas in your life that has allowed you to do a lot of things, like make some decisions and some life decisions that maybe
Absolutely.
before, without having that confidence, could impact things. But when you have confidence that you can achieve something, that you know that you can be consistent, not perfect, but even just consistent, it allows you to have the confidence that will spill over into so many areas of life. I know this happened with David too. You know, it's when people feel like they're more in control of things in their life, of the things they can control, that's when the big shifts in their lives start happening. And it's not just like, hey, I lost 10 pounds. It's like, now, because I see I can do this, there are other things I can shift and change in my life that I feel good. No matter what, I know I'm doing the right thing because I'm confident in myself.
I think too, it reminds me of like when you hear people, I think of expressions I used to hear a lot that would really bother me like years ago when people would be like, you gotta like be your own best friend or like enjoy your own company or like whatever things like that. And I remember thinking like that sounds like a terrible idea. And like why would you ever want and I really couldn't wrap my head around it. Even things like you'd hear stories about people like, oh, and I treated myself to a cookie and and I savored it on the porch while the sun was setting, and I'm like, how, like what's that about, like, you weirdo. And it just like I couldn't even attach myself to certain experiences because you're so caught up in whatever it is. And to strip all that away, and really be able to appreciate things and to do things on purpose. Do your life on purpose. Eat a cookie on purpose. Eat a giant burger the size of your head on purpose. And it's entirely different. It's doing everything through a completely different lens, and it's awesome every day.
Yeah. I think the structure of it all too really, really plays a big part in it, where somebody might not have had that before. So I know a lot of people like dread the idea of like meal prep or going to the gym, making
Ugh.
that time each day. But that's the thing is, it kind of reminds me of somewhere I learned a while back. They tell you to make your bed every morning, before you do anything, just make your bed. Which I mean, I'm like, wait, why? Why? I'm just going to get back in it later. But the whole philosophy is to do that. So now you know that you got this done, and the rest of the day follows suit. And where this kind of comes into that same thing is when you go, like, say, on a Sunday and you get the food together and you kind of make it, you play your music, you make it something fun and it's part of your week. It feels good. It feels good to have that and to do those things, have it lined up. And now you have food for days. Now, there's no screwing up. And I think it just sets that tone going into the week that you're already ahead. You're already winning with this and you're more motivated to go work out. I think the effort that a lot of people put into avoiding that and trying to find ways around it is causing more stress in their life than if they started to do those things and they realize it has a lot more impact on just their physique and how they feel. It's actually impacting how they do things from day to day. So it's I think these things put together is a big part of why people's lives change, and the people that understand it get it. The ones that don't understand are the ones that didn't go through that process to put that time in to do it, but then they learn it when they do.
But I think that's the difference too between, there's a fine line between something that's monotonous and something that's a ritual. Nobody would describe taking a shower at the end of the day as like, oh, it's so monotonous. No, because you're
Correct.
enjoying it. It felt good at the end of the day. And things like meal prep or whatever. I mean, yeah, you could make it something monotonous, or it could be a ritual and something you practice as a gift to yourself. And I think when you make that shift, into converting those things to an act of self care in and of themselves, it changes everything. You wouldn't describe, washing your hands or putting gas in your car. It's like, oh, I'm so bored of that. And it's just
Yes.
something you do. It's
Right. That's
just
the
what you
same
do.
thing.
You don't have
And
to
I have,
like, it's,
exactly. I have people
you
that are
know,
like, well, do I have to like keep doing this? Keep doing what?
When can
Like
when can I eat
eating
normal again?
healthy when I could eat normal? I'm like,
Define
so
normal.
you brush your teeth. Are you going to just, well, I'm just going to stop this nonsense. Cause I mean, obviously I'm good. Like they're clean now, and it's like that same kind of thing of like, eating healthy doesn't mean that you can never enjoy the burger, that you can never have the thing that you like. It's when you learn how to have the majority of your time doing the things that are consistently going to help you to feel better, that every once in a while, if you have a fun food or something you enjoy, as long as you have that balance and you do the things, that's where living really happens, because you don't have to worry about health issues that you could have avoided had you done the things, and being able to live your life and have the confidence and, knowing that you can do things, feeling more powerful. Like, there's so many benefits that it's mind boggling when people kind of look at it in that perspective.
It's all about perspective. It really is.
Well, but also, you could say the same thing to myself included. You sort of try to rationalize initially, like, is this even something, like, is this something I can afford? Like, nobody can afford anything nowadays. So,
Correct.
it rightfully so. Everybody wants to know, I don't know, like, I can't really treat myself to something like this. This sounds like a splurge, right? And then, until
Better than a
you
triple bypass.
well, and that's right, but that's an extreme version. But I would argue, I'm fully aware of how much fast food costs. I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally spent, you know, 3 times as much as I'm spending, on support that gets me, the countless other things that, we touched upon. But so you can make it about that, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you're gonna spend it one way or another. You're gonna spend it hurting yourself or helping yourself or, whatever. And I think it's, but even when you said just now, that's right, when you said that, enjoying, that's right. People are like, when can I go back and eat and go back to normal and
Normally,
all that? And you're like, you can still enjoy. They don't realize they can enjoy sometimes. That stuck out because when I was very overweight and you would hear somebody say, sometimes you can enjoy that thing that you like, that feels like somebody saying 6 years from now, you will be able to taste
a bite of a
something
burger,
enjoyable
a
again. And
tater
until
tot.
then, yeah, like anything, whatever your thing is, right? It's like, well, and until then, you'll suffer in silence. And it's just, so I think it's this misconception too that like the discipline and consistency piece is like this state of like sadness and despair until you get to like the part where you're
You
eating
reach
what
the
you
next
want to
level.
eat. Right. Like, I don't know, I think it's important that people probably know that nobody is suffering and hungry and starving and sad.
No,
Maybe the ones that aren't doing it right.
Maybe it's a lot less starving and sad
Yeah.
than being overweight.
Yeah.
yeah. So now with where you are right now, where do you see yourself like a year from now? Like possibly competing, doing something like that, or just
I absolutely, without a doubt, I have to compete at some point. That has to happen. I think
like
my biggest challenge right now, if I'm being honest, I think like, I really, I want to, when I look at where I'd like to be, from a competitive standpoint, and I realize I'm putting a disclaimer on this because, right, everybody will be like, well, but everybody starts here and you're gathering feedback. And I know all the right things, right? I know all that. But like when I'm looking at, sort of where I'd like to be and, in the fantasy of like, here's what I'm bringing, and like I'm showing up with this package or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's this. And I'm like, I want to get to here and then I'm gonna, and I don't know how much of that is based in reality or just based on me sort of talking myself out of sort of, I don't know. I
Well,
don't know
then you
what that
look at
is.
like where you started. Did you ever think that you'd be where you
No,
are? Right. And
no,
you think of how long have you been with us?
since
almost 2 years.
we were 23.
Okay. So
Yeah.
not even 2 years. And the amount of change in your body composition, which I will share a picture of kind of like where she is now, is so, so crazy. And that's what I tell people. Like, typically, most people do not start with us saying, I want to compete. Like, there are some, but there is a large majority of people that start with us, start seeing incredible change that they never thought possible. And it's like that, and David included, that's kind of where it starts. And then you're like, damn, if I can get here, what is possible? Yeah. And I think that type of progression and getting to that point, that is the best way to compete, because you still, when you jump on that stage, you have already gotten to a point that you never thought possible, let alone what happens there. It is when you finally reach that. And then when you get there, it's going to be, okay, what's next? And that's, I think, the best part.
100%.
Yeah, and I think that maybe that's some of it too. Is it, it just seems like once it starts, you're like, that's it, I'm in, I'm going full, whatever. And I want to be ready for that too. I want to do it right. I want to, but I think at this point too, because I'm on the smaller side, it's difficult to find a lot of real life motivation, like real people sort of in my, not that there aren't some great 90-year-old women at the YMCA that are like really crushing it. But no, but it's, it's hard sometimes to know if I were looking at myself objectively and just comparing from an athleticism standpoint, how would you determine if somebody was ready to do anything, because I don't know that I need that. I'm not looking for somebody to be like, "Atta girl, you showed up. Good job." I think I genuinely would want feedback that I could apply. Like, I think it would be like, get this feedback, apply the feedback, go back, you get the feedback and apply the feedback. And it's just, and I want, so from a strategy standpoint, I think like, I want to, doesn't everybody want to show up and be like the best?
Yeah.
Do you want to show up and be like, this old thing? Like, what? I just brought this from home.
No big deal. It's just what I do.
I was going to move on to another topic. So go ahead, David.
There's no right time to say I want to compete. There's no like, these boxes were checked, so okay, now it's time to compete. There's no such a thing. It's a feeling. You're like, okay, I want to compete, and you will get feedback from the competitions, and then you take that and say, okay, what did we learn? How do I change for the next time? But waiting for the perfect moment, there's no such a thing.
Yeah.
You just have to say, I'm willing to do it.
Yep.
Oh, trust me, I went through it. I had said I was going to compete several times, Brooke can tell you, before it actually happened. And the reason why it happened is because she just decided one day, she's like, I'm going to do a show. I'm like, no, you're not before me. And she's like, yes, I am. And so she did, and she crushed it. 2 second place trophies, first show. I'm like, well, all right, I guess I got to do this now.
Inside.
So to show you how much I got in my head, I went right into it.
I know him long enough.
And then, but I guess the moral of the story was I ended up finally doing the show, went into the prep, and I ended up winning my pro card in natural bodybuilding in the first show. So this whole time I was thinking I wasn't ready to do it. And sure enough, I had a blast. And David's got the similar story,
Mel. No pressure, Mel.
Yeah. So
I know. Well, isn't there supposed to be like somebody who's like, and now you go, and then they just like, and you're
here,
like,
my
okay,
friend.
Yeah.
Take the torch. Right. Here you are.
You just end up at like an arena, and you're like, how did
That's what happens. All of a sudden, you're on a stage, lights, and some heels, and you don't even remember what happened.
Well, it's a progression. It is a progression. How it goes. Because you figure if you do NPC is amateur until you win at nationals and become a pro. So it is a progression. You get all shapes and sizes. You get people that come in that just look like they should be pro already, and then you have some that are more beginner level. Getting in and they're just getting started on their journey. So and the thing about it is, with the crowd that's going to watch it, they don't care. They love to see all of it, because everybody's on that stage is doing what they want to be doing, and they know what they put into it. So there's really no losing in one of these shows. It's really kind of like we were saying before, perspective, and what you put on yourself. But the fact that anybody goes on stage and competes and just gives their best that's a win across the board. So then once you get the first show out of the way, now you're technically a competitor, because when you don't win first place, boy, it puts a fire in you. Now you really get that drive to push to become better. And so that's the part that I love. That's why it never bothered me when I didn't win, because it just motivated me to work harder and harder. And that definitely is the reason why I got to the level that I got to. I'm grateful that when I went to MPC that I didn't come out just just tearing it up and just beating everybody, because that would have probably been short lived. I needed to get knocked around a little bit the way I'm about to with my first show with the IFBB, but I love it. I can't wait. So I want that challenge to build into it. So I do see it coming fairly soon. I do see it coming fairly soon. So we're just going to keep building
there.
until then. But yeah, we're all going to be there.
And I'm going to also ask you, for people that are thinking about getting started, people that are in that boat, that maybe they lost some weight themselves and they're kind of stuck, or that they keep yo-yoing, or that, maybe they feel like in their head, like, it's not going to work for me. I've never stuck with anything. I can't do it. Like, what would you tell them with regards to like your experience and maybe what you were thinking and why it might be helpful for them, like with our program specifically, what was different that might have been helpful?
Or even advice, just advice in general.
Well, I think there are obvious things that are really beneficial, right? Of coaching a coaching relationship in general, whether somebody went with,
Joe Schmo. Yep.
whoever, right? And it's things like accountability. It's things like, and everything's on an app, right? Everything's with you. There is no, once I get home and I check my clipboard with my doctor's notes on it, and
Yeah.
then I can, it's not like this is like, the modern day everything, right? It's all in your hand all the time, super user friendly, even for idiots like me who peaked at Oregon Trail. Like, I don't, like, if I can do it, like anybody can do it. Like, so I think there's that, right? But I think the other piece is that there is no, I think in that sense, people, self included, when you identify um, sort of a weight, right? I'm an overweight person, right? I'm an unhealthy person. This is it's who I am, right? What is it, like body positivity, right? I'm pro, all shapes and sizes and this and that. But when you begin to identify with an unhealthy version of yourself, you're in a really, really dangerous place. And I think it's really crucial to decide in general what you're going to do. Have a plan, because your plan is either going to be, early death, right? So you can pick that. That's fine. And if you pick that, have the greatest 5 years or whatever your thing is, live it up. But if you don't pick that, have a strategy that isn't based on guesswork. It should be, it should be science backed, and like, take into consideration you as a person and not be an umbrella anything. Not all people are the same. But I think under that sort of heading of not all people are the same, I would also want to put not all people are the same, but humans are pretty predictable, and that's good news, because the science exists. Like, you don't have to like sort of guess and try to figure stuff out. That's already like pretty much done, which is great. So if you just sort of hand it to people who can sort of show you that stuff, you don't have to worry about, returning back to, how things were before, or will it be right for me? If you're human, it's going to be right for you, because you're supposed to take care of your body in a certain way that makes you sort of improve over time and evolve, right? That sort of devolve. So, if it, in that sense, I would say there is no right or wrong person that it's for. If you're a human person who wants to be the healthiest version of you as a human, well, then it's right for you. And if you happen to also be a woman, it's probably better for you, because, getting in when I did in terms of, premenopause and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of beating a lot of that, before things got, all out of
Harry.
whack.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was really, really, lucky for me. But I think, everybody stands to benefit in that way. Everybody deserves to feel and perform the best they can. Whether you believe that or not right now, do it for 6 months, do it for a year. You'll see. It's all right.
Yep. Yep.
I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's important to point out too, is that she's doing all this right in the midst of Perry, going into it. And this is when a lot of women are their bodies are going to a place that they've never seen before in a bad way. The blocking midsections, the weight gain and everything, where she's actually turned around and made an epic transformation in the other direction during this time. So it is doable. It is something that can be done. But it does, like what she's saying, it helps to have a coach to navigate you through it, because your body is changing in different ways. And to try to figure that out by yourself would be difficult, because even as a coach, it's not an easy feat, because you have to watch the data, you have to see how their bodies are changing. And it really helps to have a client that works with you and is an adherent and follows the procedures and does it, but also has the right attitude towards it, a positive attitude, that goes such a long way, such a long way. And that's like one of the things I love the most about the check-ins, is that no matter what's happening in her life, it's always a positive check-in. It's she just doesn't dwell on whatever it is. She's just back over here with like how great this is at work, and she tells me a story about what a customer says, these things. So it's just not just filler, but I think that that's really something that really needs to be said, is that your attitude and life in general has such a big impact of your outcome of everything. And you can complain about things and be miserable, or you can be happy. And the people that you see that just always kind of had things work out for them, typically are people that just choose to be happy, because they just find ways, they navigate through it. They don't dwell on the dark side, because everybody has dark sides. Everybody has them equally, but it's how you choose to view it and what you want to do with it. So, and in Mel's case, she used that as fuel to become better at a time when there's a lot of women in depression, for what they're going through. And she changed her life, so, and her life has changed in a lot of ways. And I think luckily, because of how she did things, it makes this part of her life in a lot better place, than where it could have been. So there's just so many great things that came from it, And so it's a very good story. That's why I'm really happy that we got her on the podcast with us here to share it.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh,
David, if you don't have anything else to add, or Mel, you have nothing else to share.
maxed out. Yeah.
And I can say, I think my favorite part is just her check-ins, that when I used to, again, we started together, and doing her check-ins and the entertainment factor, because she is also a comedian and she is absolutely hilarious. So it's not just her positive, attitude towards things, but her sense of humor is just, for me, what has just been such a blessing. And we're so, so grateful that you actually reached out to David and found us. So it's really been amazing. And I cannot wait to see what's next.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Mel, if we can share your Instagram handle on here so people could follow and kind of see, because I know you're going to big places, and there's going to be some cool stuff for them to check out.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I update it once every 6.5 years, I feel like the suspense factor really adds
you're
to
going to
that
have a lot of
excitement.
things to put on there coming up. I can see that already.
Well, I
Yes.
certainly hope so. And hopefully I'll have a personal photographer by then too, to do it for me.
Well, there you go.
You should find out who does David's pictures, because
for real.
It's a timer on the iPhone.
it is. Maybe you can give you a lesson next Thanksgiving.
No.
It's too technical.
I just got her to use a Google form like recently. So we're slowly, baby steps.
Listen, I'm navigating this, and this feels like NASA level.
Very,
like I'm landing
it is very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you don't mind sharing a review, we would really appreciate it. And if there are any topics that you would like us to have a podcast, a future episode, please drop them below, and I will share everything in the link if you guys want to follow Mel and see her journey. Thanks, guys.
For having me.
Bye, guys.
You better give us a double bicep real quick. I got to. Oh, there it is. There it is.
My dog is super impressed.
Thanks for tuning in to Master Your Metabolism. If you found value in today's episode, it would mean the world to us if you'd hit subscribe and share this episode with someone who could use a little guidance in their health journey. Ready to take the next step? Head over to www.mastersfitnesscoaching.com and you can book a free call right from the site, so we can chat about your goals and how we can help support you. Don't forget to join our Facebook group, where we're sharing coaching tips, support, and tricks to help keep you on track and continue making progress. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to walk with you every step of the way. Until next time, stay consistent, stay kind to yourself, and keep mastering your metabolism. Let's do this together.